What up, world? You tuned in. South Arkansas Trill Talk, part 96 out there. Shit, got the mail coming up, El Dorado. Shit, salute everybody out there, follow, man. Yeah, man, shit, we go still get this shit going, get the shit jumping, man. Shit, man, I don't want nobody calling in. You got any questions out there, put them on the screen down there. We'll answer them later. She'll answer them later. You know what I'm saying, man? It's all about elevating our here. Shit, trying to get our city back together out there. Trying to get our people back home out there. But I salute everybody that come on and chill out, man. This South Arkansas Trill Talk, part 96 out there. And like I tell y'all, man, I salute everybody that follow, man. I'm just gonna calm down a little bit, man. I just had to get myself together real fast and shit. Coming off the highway and shit. But I'm here now. But like I say, man, I'm gonna let her come up. I'm gonna let her do her thing. I'm gonna let her talk to y'all herself. Let her tell you more about herself. And you know what I'm saying? We can go from there. But anybody out there, you know what I'm saying, you got any questions, shit, you know what I'm saying, I'm gonna let her do it. Veronica Smith-Creer out there, y'all. El Dorado Mail out there. Let her talk to y'all. Much love, y'all out there. South Arkansas Trill Talk. Yeah, like I say, man, answer the questions later, man. If you got any questions, put them on the screen. We ain't just gonna get interrupted for that. Hi, Miss Sunshine.
Hello, hello.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm
I'm running late, baby. It was a wreck on the highway out there and shit. I still had to make it here. I said, dang, if she wait on me, that's a special moment out there. You know, the devil always try to stop us when we doing something right out there.
he does. Well, I'm glad everybody, I'm hoping everybody's okay. So
That's what's up. That's what's up. I'm going to get you introduce yourself. We don't need no crowd. I ain't going to get nobody in. Let them tell them what you're about. Tell them, you know what I'm saying, who you is, where you're married and all that. And let them know how you get down and how you been long in office out there.
Okay. Well, I'm Veronica Smith-Creer. I'm the mayor here in El Dorado, Arkansas. I was elected in 2018, so I started in 2019. I'm running for re-election. It's a 4-year term. Yeah. I don't know what questions you might have, but just whatever questions I'm willing to answer. I think one of the things that's very important is for people to understand what the mayor here in El Dorado actually does. I know a lot of people aren't 100% sure about what that looks like. And some of that may be because I've been very vocal and I try my best to be very visible. But a lot of people think that I do more than what my job actually allows me to do. As the mayor, it does not mean that I'm the end all to everything. As a matter of fact, traditionally, especially here in El Dorado, it's traditional for a mayor, city council type government, for the mayor to be over the public works director, the chief of police, and the fire chief. Many people don't know that in 2020, in the middle of my term, the city council placed themselves over the public works director, thus placing themselves over the public works department. So that's a little different. I guess they did it just for me, not 100% sure why, but people need to understand that that now falls to the city council. And we're talking about public works. That's the streets, that's the trash, that's limbs and leaves, that's the water, that's sewer. All of that falls under public works. So ultimately now that falls to the city council.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. You know what I'm saying, when you got elected and stuff, you didn't get no manual of the budgets and all that, the public works, and just knowing what would need to be done and stuff. I was going to ask you about that. I'm going to go from question to question out there and let you do your thing. Okay. What can you say about the manual when you first got elected? Was it gave to you, or did you know anything about what was going on in the cities and the streets out there? What can you say about that?
So I want to tell people running for that seat and sitting in it are two very different things. Even knowing some things on the outside, once you get inside, you see how things have been working. As far as the budget is concerned, initially when I became the mayor, that's something that the treasurer generally prepared. changed treasurers in 2020, and there's a, ironically enough, there's a lot of politics in city government, and I know that sounds a little strange, but that's definitely it. As far as knowing about budgets, that's something that I was familiar with. The budget was set up a little differently. There were several jobs that had percentages of their salary that came from different departments. Like, for instance, my salary, as far as being the mayor, a portion of it came from admin, a portion of it came from public works, and it was just across the board. Those were some of the things that have changed since I've been the mayor. But the council ultimately does the budget. They're over the finances. That's the part that they play. They're not only legislative, but they're over the budget. Although the manual, and there is a manual from Municipal League in the state of Arkansas, says that the mayor is supposed to prepare and present the budget. The department heads actually do their own individual budgets, which means the only budget that actually was prepared by me would be the administration budget. And under administration would just be myself, my receptionist, the accounts payable, the city collector, and payroll, and the treasurer used to fall under the mayor. That's another change that was made by the council. Now we have Imager Scroggins, which is an accounting firm. They're both the treasurer and the payroll for the city of El Dorado.
Do you think, in your opinion, racial disparities with the old way of how the city was ran to the new way, you know, like the new age? Because, you know, the old way was when we were young, you know what I'm saying? And it still kind of ran that way, same like the White House. You got old representatives, old Republicans, old Democrats. They don't want to see no change. How can you talk and explain about racial disparities out there on, because, you know, I grew up white and black, you know what I'm saying? Through school, it was, I ain't gonna make this about a white or black thing, you feel me?
Right.
That's the main thing, because it's a lot of good white people out there, and just like it's a lot of good black people out there. But what can you say about that racial disparities when it come down to running out there and who over the money and what they doing to try to help the city other than look at it as a race thing out there? You feel what I'm saying?
I do.
But that's what be the main thing when it comes to getting that seat. What can you say about that?
So, and when we speak about, you know, racial disparities across the board, especially in the city, because I know we're talking about El Dorado. When we talk about that, I think one of the things that people need to understand is that, especially in these elected positions, first of all, you have to run. Second of all, I think a lot of people may not understand that the council, the legislative part of the city government, they make most of the decisions. The decisions ultimately don't come from the mayor. Ultimately, things like ordinances and the rules and all of those things are voted on by the council. Now, we have 8 council members here in the city of El Dorado. There are 2 council members for each ward in the city. And so traditionally, there has only been African-American representation in Ward 3. That is the only ward in the city that has had African-American representation. So when you look at the rules and how things are being done, you also have to look at who's representing you. Now, beyond who's representing you, we have African-Americans, Caucasians, Asians, Hispanics that live in every ward of the city, but whose voice is being heard the most. Now, that's when it gets to not only who's been elected, but who's representing you and how you're being represented. If we never show up, if we never say anything, if we never complain, if we never make sure our voice is heard, well, traditionally things are going to be done the way they've always been done. And just like you mentioned before, it's not always a black and white thing. It's not always a rich or poor thing. Sometimes it's just the way things have always been done. So when we talk about that, we have to understand, I say a lot of times that the squeaky wheel gets the oil, but you have to make sure that you squeak in the right places. If, again, you have to make sure that, for one, you know how things are being run. It's easy to sit back and say, well, we're not going to get this over here, or they're not going to do this over there. We are elected to serve. So if we never, and when I say we, I'm talking right now primarily, I'm talking about the African-American community. Let me just make that clear. If we don't ever show up, we can't ever expect for things to change. When I got elected, most people know I'm the first woman, first person of color to be elected. It's not enough to just get elected. That's not enough, because we can't just be satisfied with me being the mayor. Change actually comes from the people making demands for things being done. Now, when we talk about, as you mentioned before, speaking to how things, I want maybe divided, how things have been divided, how things have been distributed. A lot of those things happen the way that they've been happening because nobody has ever challenged it. Um, I hear a lot of times that people don't come to the meetings because they don't think it matters. I hear a lot of times people say they don't vote because they don't think it matters. Well, it does. It does. It matters about you coming to the meetings because you get a chance, for one, even if you're not on the agenda, you get a chance to sit in the room where the decisions are being made or where they're talked about being made. You have the opportunity to talk to your city officials and make sure that they hear what you want, because ultimately when they vote, they're not supposed to vote what they want. They're supposed to vote what you want. And if they can say, well, everybody in my ward said that they don't want that, they haven't talked to everybody in their ward, especially if you hadn't made sure that they talked to you. So a lot of the things keep being done the way that they've been done because nobody has challenged it. I have been, and I'm saying this in all honesty, I try to be as transparent as I can. I stand by my word. I don't have to lie. Everything is documented. I am the first mayor that I know of that they have taken the public works department from. Now, I'm not upset about the fact that they've taken it. It's upsetting to me for the citizens that they've not taken it and been responsible with it. I'm the first mayor who's hired a real HR person. I've gone back and forth with the council about that. My staff, and it's not because I picked them, my staff is African American. They were qualified. They were interviewed. They sent in resumes. They were qualified. Everybody that works for me at City Hall is qualified to do the job that they were hired to do. Many people don't even know that before I was elected, nobody of African American persuasion, Hispanic, Asian, anything, worked in City Hall. The only person that was an African American that worked primarily in City Hall was the janitor at the time. And she was fired after I was elected. So wow. Those are things that people don't know. If you don't ever show up, if people just listen to what people say and they don't know the facts, people have said I fired all the white people and hired all black people. That's not true. But I did hire people that are qualified. People have said that I have overspent the budget. Well, to a degree, that may be true. My budget was over the second year. The 2020 budget, my budget is over, but nobody talks about the fact that the council didn't pass the budget for 2021 until the end of the year. People have talked about the bills not getting paid. Well, nobody talks about the fact that certain bills weren't getting paid because of the process not being followed by some of the other departments. So people don't understand some things. So I've gotten, some people may say, a bad rap on certain things, but that's why it's important to me for me to share information so that people know how things really work. I've been very transparent. I have an open door policy. If anybody ever wants to come to City Hall and see me, you don't have to make an appointment, but just make sure that I'm there. So that's one of the things that I think has been very important, is about educating people on processes so they know how things are supposed to work. So when they don't work, you know who to call. And that was a long answer to your question, but
hey, you can keep it going as long as you want, baby. I was concerned what you said about the black people that's in Ward 3. That's the only ward that we always been over, is Ward 3. Mm-hmm. What about Ward 1, Ward 2, and Ward 4? Do they ever transparent to the black communities out there? Do they ever supply or support anything in the black community, no matter if they rich over there and they streets over there don't need paying nothing, and seem like they get more money than sometimes, or they get money they don't even need. You know what I'm saying? And I heard you say for the budget to be spent over in your budget and dealing with the black community, why your budget can't be spent over more? Because it's more repair in the black community. You feel me? It's more over there need to be done, such as the pipes in the ground, all that need to be fixed, and the water lines out there. You know, the street poles with the lights on. Every hood you ride to, you don't even see no street pole lights, and you can't even walk in the back roads back there without the police trying to stop you because there's no street lights on. They figure if you walking down the street back there, you got to be doing something you ain't got no business. Explain on that level of Ward 1, 2, and 4 out there. What can you say about them actually taking parts in the Black community out there, no matter if they budgets or they streets need to be repaired or anything? Can you explain that to them? Why Ward 1 and 2 and 4, you say, not doing nothing for Ward 3, mostly Black community?
So let me explain. When I say representation, I mean as far as the council is concerned. That I mean those are the people that are elected. And Ward 3 is the only ward that has had African American representation on the council. That's what I meant by that. Now, although Ward 1 and Ward 2 and Ward 4 haven't had an African American or any other ethnicity represent on the council, there are African Americans, Hispanics, Asian in every ward of the city. One of the things that people don't understand is that Ward 3, it has Myrtle Heights and different areas, but it also has the downtown area. Much of the Murphy Arts District falls in Ward 3. So there are underserved communities and overserved communities in every ward of the city. Where you mentioned where there are areas where the streets aren't as good, where the infrastructure may not be as good or may not be maintained as well. Let me just put it that way. That's all across. That's in Ward 1, 2, 3, and 4. So as far as budget is concerned, let me make this clear. When I say my budget, that's the administration budget. Public Works, that budget is what covers the trash and the limbs, things of that nature. There's even, as far as paving streets and all of that, that's in the Public Works budget. So repairs and things of that nature would come out of that particular budget. Now, Ward 1, Ward 2, Ward 3, Ward 4, they don't have their own particular budget. Everything, you know, is kind of in the pot and is supposed to be separated. As far as streets and things of that nature, they're supposed to be divided equally. As a matter of fact, in 2019, there was an extra $5 million allocated to street renovations, whether it be paving or repairing, things of that nature. Well, 2020 was the pandemic, so that slowed a lot of that down. Last year, they got back on board with that, but there's supposed to be the same amount of money spent on street repair in every ward. With that $5 million, that was $1.25 million for each ward, for that to be allocated and fixing the streets. Another thing that a lot of people don't understand, it takes a lot of money to pave just a little bit of road. But I have to remind people, in every ward of the city, there are areas that you can go where the streets are unpaved. And that shouldn't be. That shouldn't ever happen, but that's some of what we have to deal with. Now, you mentioned about the street lights. We're going to go back to Public Works on that, because the street lights, if there's a light that is out in your community, what you need to do is there is a tag on there that has SL and a number. You get that information, you're supposed to call Public Works. Public Works in turn calls Entergy, and they are supposed to come out and repair that. The city pays so much money to Entergy for the street lights in the neighborhoods. So if there's a street light that is out, those are supposed to be reported and then turned in to the Public Works Department. Now, my understanding and what I think should be happening, and it may be to a certain degree, is that some of the city workers are also working on making sure that they're turning in that information, as well as the police officers. Now, that's something that was recommended be done. But as far as in anybody's particular neighborhood, if you see the street lights are out, you're supposed to be able to get that number, call the Public Works Department, and they in turn will turn that into Entergy, and they are responsible for repairing those. So even to that, it comes back to, and I'm gonna say this, a lot of people that live in underserved communities, I believe, and this is my opinion, have been conditioned to feeling like, well, they've never helped over here, they've never come over here, there's no sense in complaining about it because it's not gonna happen. And that's the wrong thing to do. You know, you gotta keep, and I hate to say it, you have to keep bugging the people in charge to make sure that they handle what they're supposed to handle. One of the worst things we can do is wait for somebody to come up and take care of those things. I will say there are some things as far as infrastructure, because you mentioned about the pipes and all of that being old. We have those situations all over the city. Sometimes in certain neighborhoods, it is the developers who took maybe the cheap way out in doing some of that. But we have to realize that El Dorado at one time had over 25,000 people. Now we're down to under 17,000 people, but that same infrastructure that we've had for decades. And it needs to be replaced. It needs to be repaired. But when we talk about that, we also have to think about the fact that the money to cover that is going to come from who? The taxpayers. So we have to make sure that things are being allocated correctly. Now, I found out a lot of things since I've been the mayor, and I've tried to change some things. But I'm going to say this again. Before I decided to run, and when I decided to run, I said that we would have to launch a movement. One person can't do it. One person is not enough. Some people don't understand, you know, like I mentioned, I'm not the end all to situations. Even in a council meeting, when there's a vote taken, I don't vote. I don't have a vote. The only way that the mayor has an opportunity to vote is to break a tie. So people can feel like or say, you know, the mayor didn't do this or the mayor didn't do that. You need to understand what the mayor can actually do and what I actually have the power to do. And again, even since after I've been elected, some of those things have changed. So that's what I need people to understand. Your voice, the voice of the people, is the most powerful voice. When you show up and demand things to be done, things have to be done. So that's what's the most important thing is that people know that and understand it.
You think our race, we don't be at enough city council meetings and we don't do enough voting out there due to, you know, like, I don't want, a lot of people be saying that the voting, like you said, the voting matters out there. You know what I'm saying? What can you say about the voting? Is it more older people that vote more, or is more younger people that vote more? Because, you know, certain people like just say, is this person vote over here and he well known in the city, then they gonna take his votes way more serious. They always wait till certain people vote before they know. And it make it seem like the people that is vote don't even have a voice, because when certain people vote sometime, the majority of the people go with them. You see what I'm saying? Like, they don't even have to vote right now. They could be the last one to vote. But whatever vote they take, everybody go follow them. And sometimes the votes they take don't even be the right ones. You see what I'm saying? Or don't be the ones that's up, prepared, or even in tune with the new generation. You see what I'm saying? What can you say about that sometime, or the vote of people that follow the majority people of somebody that's well known in the city that get the main people to vote sometime? What can you say about the ones that got that kind of power in the city?
So, and I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, when you're talking about the vote, I'm assuming that you're talking about the constituents that are pushing for the council members to vote a certain way. Is that what
Yes, ma'am.
So
yes, you know, that matters a lot.
Right. I believe you may be absolutely right about the people that have the majority, have the power, you know, things get done for those people, maybe a little bit more than they should in a lot of instances. But ultimately, that can only carry so much weight. That can only carry so much weight if people are staying involved. One of the first things you asked me is, do I think that the African American, if we show up to the meetings like we should? And I'm going to say no. I don't think enough of us show up with the concerns that we have to really make our voices heard. Do we have African Americans that show up? We sure do. We have quite a few that show up. But again, I think the majority of people who have complaints are the ones that don't show up. And your complaint needs to be heard, and it needs to be heard on more than just a phone call. Sometimes you need to make sure that you show up and are face to face, eye to eye. You asked about voting, and I'm going to mention about actually going to the polls, voting for issues and voting for candidates. I don't think we show up enough. I think a lot of times we sit back and we say that our vote doesn't count, when in actuality it does. I can use myself as an example. I won the election 4 years ago by 87 votes. That's not a lot. That's less than 100 votes. That could have been a street. That could have been just a neighborhood. That could have been, you know, a part of an apartment complex. So every vote does count. But also back to what you were saying about the majority, you know, somebody who has power and somebody who has pull, you know, making sure that what they want gets done. Unfortunately, that happens, but it can only happen if the people who aren't necessarily the majority, but are the majority, don't stand up to make sure that changes are being made. For instance, there are certain neighborhoods where certain affluent people live. They don't have to worry about their trash getting picked up on time. You know, that's what said, you know, they have the street sweepers coming through there. If trash is put out or if something is put out there, it's going to get picked up. Well, some people take priority. And that can only happen when the employees or the staff allow that to happen. So again, we need to make sure, and I say we, I'm not just talking about us, I'm talking about the citizens as a whole. We need to make sure that we are electing people who will be fair. And when we elect people who will be fair, we can hold our feet to the fire to make sure that processes are put in place. I've been making a lot of noise about processes, trying to explain processes, and as much as I try to explain them, they try to change them. But here I come again, trying to explain them because people won't know what to do unless it's explained to them. Even now with the council taking over the public works department, some people still call me because that has been the tradition that you call the mayor's office. But since the council took it upon themselves, and I'm going to continue to say that, to take over the public works department, I give out their numbers when they say that they've not been able to get things done through the public works department. People need to make sure they are calling and not only being happy when things go right, but complain when things are wrong, because things do go wrong and you need to complain. If you feel like your neighborhood is not getting the service that it should get, complain. But you got to complain to the people who can make that change. Make sure you're calling your council representative. Make sure you're showing up to the meetings. I make the agenda for the city council meetings, and I always try to make a place for citizens' concerns. If there's a citizen that has a concern about something being done or not done, I try to give them an opportunity to speak. There is a public works meeting that they do on the second or third Wednesday at 10 o'clock at the auditorium in the lobby. It is very lowly attended. One, that is 10 o'clock on a Wednesday, but two, people don't really understand that it's happening and they're not coming. But you can call your council representative anytime, just like you can call me anytime. Their number is listed and it is public, so you can call them and make sure that they understand the things that you feel are not being done.
That's what's up. Speaking of being the first Black female that's elected out there, how challenging that's been on running mayor, on dealing with men out there, and dealing with everybody basically, because they always say a woman pushover or a woman, Black woman anyway, can be a powerful voice. What can you say about being the first Black female that's represented and one that's elected out there? What can you say about that? How challenging that has been?
And so I always like to make sure people understand I'm not just the first Black female. I'm the first African American and first female. To say that I'm the first Black female would mean that another female was the mayor. So I am the first female, period. I'm the first person of color, period. And it has been very challenging. It has been, just like you mentioned, some people think because I'm a woman, I'm easily, I should be easily pushed over. And if you know me, you know that's not the case. And then some people, as Black women, we're very aggressive. And I think we're just determined. And I think a lot of women are like that, not just Black women. I think we're just very determined because we have been used to having to be powerful. I mean, it's just in us. Women are nurturers, but we also have a lot of strength. It's been challenging, I guess, to be the first of anything is challenging. But when people have been used to things working a certain way, and then somebody comes along and changes those things, well, that presents a threat and a challenge to people. So it's been challenging with people wanting to keep things the way that they are. It's been a challenge from my own community, because I think a lot of times people feel like I haven't done everything that they wanted done, without really realizing that there are restrictions and limitations to what this office actually gives me the power to do. It's been a challenge to try to enlist the change that people have asked for, especially when I was running for election. So it's been a challenge all the way around. But I'll say this: I ran for mayor because I felt like I could make a difference. I felt like I had a voice. I felt like I knew enough about the different communities and the different things that were going on that I had some insight and some understanding. I ran for mayor to help. I didn't run for mayor for the status, for the power, any of that, because to me, being a servant is what this position is all about. That's the reason why I'm running again, is because I don't see anyone else running that, in my opinion, and it's my opinion, who will actually take the needs of everybody seriously. I talk to Black people, white people, Hispanic people, Asian people. I talk to rich people, poor people. I talk to people who had issues with the fire department, the police department. I talked to people who had issues that I couldn't even help. I couldn't help them with, but because I'm compassionate, I wanted to make sure I got them to the people who could help them. So I have a servant's heart. That is the only reason why I'm in this position, is because I feel like God put me here to be a servant to the people. And I'm not bragging, I'm just stating the truth. I haven't seen any other mayor be the mayor like I've been the mayor. And I don't see anybody else running for mayor that will be the mayor like I've been the mayor. I'm everybody's mayor. It doesn't care what color you are, what side of town you come from, how much money you have. People can come to me the same way with your issues and your concerns, and I will do my very best to help you. So that is why I decided to run. And with that also comes a lot of struggle, because again, not everybody wants to see things change for the better for everybody.
That's what's up. What can you say about the hospitals out there? Because you know a lot of people run this way when they get sick and stuff, or they don't have that way of getting that way, no treatment down there. Or what can you say about the hospitals? Do you think that we need a intern program ran to keep our people from having to travel so far sometime, based upon they say it ain't no good doctors down there, but then sometimes the doctors situation it be overflow you already from they patient already be the capacity of them already be over. But what can you say about more Black doctors and people that just Asian doctors or Hispanic doctors working in interns out there at the hospital, so we won't have to travel so far down here? Because once upon a time, Union Medical and Warner Brown used to be good hospitals out there.
Yeah.
Even I remember that when I was a baby. What's going on with our hospitals? So why so many people have to travel this way sometimes?
So I think some of the things that people have to look at is, for one, don't listen to everything people say. You know, sometimes things can exaggerated a bit. We have a lot of good doctors here in El Dorado, a lot of doctors that come from different areas. One of the things that we also have to look at is insurance. Different people's insurance require them to go to different places. Also, the kind of doctor that you're looking for may require you to go to different places. I can always use myself as an example, because I don't have to worry about telling anybody's business. A few years ago, I had to have surgery. I had that surgery here in El Dorado. I had one of the best doctors. I had some of the best care right here in El Dorado. I know that may not be the truth for everybody. For instance, my mother, she's deceased, but she suffered from multiple myeloma cancer. Her doctors were in Little Rock, and the service that they gave her there, in their opinion, we didn't have that kind of service here. Well, that's been several years ago, and now, you know, even with the hospital, we have the cancer place, Cartot, here in El Dorado, which has some amazing doctors and is an amazing facility. So while people travel different places for healthcare, I don't think it's a one fix to that. I think it's multiple things that play into that scenario. And it's not always that we don't have good doctors and that we don't have a good facility. Sometimes people have bad experiences, and you're going to get that anywhere. People have had bad experiences in Little Rock, bad experiences in Shreveport. So I don't think we have a horrible healthcare system. And to your point about interns and people becoming doctors and getting doctors from other places, South Arkansas Community College has a program where we turn out more nurses, than a lot of other areas. So we have kind of at one time saturated the market with nurses and, you know, getting into the medical field. So while there may be competition, I still think the Medical Center of South Arkansas is a good hospital. We have a lot of good doctors. We have a lot of good nurses, but you know, you're going to always have that opinion and experiences that may speak to something different. I just know that you can get good and bad service everywhere.
Yeah, that's what's up. You know, people want to know that, you know what I'm saying, show coming from. What can you say about the population going down and the jobs out there? Because, you know, it's a lot of lazy people sometimes. They always holler, it ain't no job. That's the reason why they can't find no jobs.
Yeah.
But by the population going down over the years from ConAgra days, knowing that was raking in $2.8 million back then, and people that staying around there, they moving away because there's nothing to do in the city, and it's nothing to do just basically having a black business in the city. And what can you say about that population going down like that?
Okay, so let me speak to that, and I'm glad you asked that. As far as the population is concerned, the population is generally generated through the census. So when we talk about that, we have to talk about the fact that not everybody filled it out. Not everybody took it seriously. A lot of people were still not counted. So will have a huge percentage of people who are not counted. And one of the things that people need to understand is that whatever our population count is from the census, that funding comes for that population. So just as an example, let's say, for instance, 75% of the population filled out the census. So that's the number that we've been given. 75% of the people filled out it. So that's the only number that we have. It only represents 75%. Well, that funding has to take care of 100% of the people. So we're at a loss right there when we talk about the census, that population, and that funding. Also, when we talk about people leaving, we also have to keep in mind that, and you mentioned ConAgra specifically, we had a lot of people who had worked there since they were younger. Some people went there straight out of high school. Some people started working there while they were in high school. You know, I think I'm older than you, but you may remember that too, that some people their first job and they stayed there. When that plant shut down, it was not only detrimental to the workers, but it was also detrimental to the economy of this city. Now, many of those people, because at the time, I believe I was starting to be on the board at the college. I don't think I had gotten there yet, but I remember the report after the fact. When people are laid off in great numbers or out of work in great numbers like that, a lot of people elect to go back to school. So that helped people get trained in some different areas and some different fields. So while it was detrimental to a degree, it was also beneficial. Now we have to look at the fact that here in El Dorado, because of not only the population, when we look at where we're located, we're not going to get, and I say this not to be negative, but I'm just being a realist. We're probably never going to get another huge industry like that to come here. That just may not ever happen. And we just have to be realistic. Our location may not be beneficial to a lot of places or a lot of businesses or a plant like that to come here. Now, we do have several plants that are still here. But what I'm saying is, just like those people who lost their job at ConAgra, went back to school and found a new craft, found a new way of living, found a new trade, that's what we probably have to look at, because one of the points even in my platform is industry and entrepreneurship. Some people won't ever go back to a plant. Some people will start their own business based off the skill that they possess and the passion that they have. So while it may be a hardship to a degree, El Dorado has a lot of small businesses, a lot of locally owned businesses, because people have figured out being your own boss works as opposed to you working at a plant or in a huge industry. So while we look at the fact that we lost ConAgra, we lost Cooper Tire a long time ago, we've lost a lot of industry that we will probably never get back. But we also have to look at, when we're talking about industry wanting to come here, it's not enough to just say, oh, we want an industry to come here. It has to be enough for them to want to come here. So that means sometimes the city has to give a little, the county has to give a little. but we also have to look at a workforce has to be viable for people to want to come here. One of the things I mention to people all the time, especially since I became the mayor, and I call it economics 101. If you don't spend money here, you don't keep money here. Those tax dollars that we spend by generating revenue here, that money stays here. So if you're always going somewhere else to shop, if you're always going somewhere to eat or somewhere else to eat, you're taking El Dorado's money somewhere else. So that money does not get to go to our infrastructure. It does not get to go to our businesses. It does not get to go to us paving roads and things of that nature. So we have to look at that when we're looking at the fact of people leaving. When they leave, they take all of their money. So that's another thing that we look at. And it's not so much, and I want to say this because you touched on this about things to do here. There'll never be anything to do here. People just continue to complain about nothing being here. Sometimes you have to make something here, and you have to take advantage of the things that are here. People have asked for different restaurants to come here. Well, if we don't eat at the restaurants that we have here, why would another restaurant want to come here? Because they're looking at the foot traffic of people coming, the money that's spent here, and the workforce that is viable here. So we can sometimes be our own worst enemy when we're complaining about what we don't have and going somewhere else other than pushing and promoting the things that we do have and taking advantage of that. Because we'll never get a Chick-fil-A if we don't patronize the businesses that we do have, because they're looking for certain things when they come here. So that's the same thing with industry. They have to have what they're looking for to come here. I got a lot of calls when I became the mayor about people saying, well, bring this here, bring that here. Another thing that people may not understand is that the chamber is the economic development arm of the city here in El Dorado. I don't solicit businesses. Our council can't solicit businesses. And that's one of the things that I keep telling people. If somebody is running for a position and they tell you that the number one thing they want to do is bring jobs, make sure that that's something that they can do, because there are not elected officials here in El Dorado that bring jobs. That is on the Chamber of Commerce to do that. Businesses contact them, they contact businesses, and they try to make sure that El Dorado or Union County is accommodating to businesses that want to come here or that they have solicited to come here. So I can't make the decision. I can't call Chick-fil-A and say, hey, come to El Dorado. That's not how that works.
I feel you on that. Because, we come from, it's like a lot of industrial jobs, that's something that gonna come in the area. It's gonna have to be industrial way. And I understand you saying about the businesses out there where competition, we don't even eat enough around here, you know what I'm saying, to want to bring a new food place out of town and stuff. What about the Walmarts out there? I think someone asked you about that question on the comment, and they was like, why we don't have two Walmarts? Well, we got $2-3 Generals, we got two Family Dollars. What can you say about that, of each or two or sometime, of what people don't be understanding?
So Dollar General, and I'm glad you mentioned that. It's a Dollar General on the highway in the middle of the woods. So Dollar General is everywhere. And I don't know what how they're able to do that, but they are popping up everywhere. I think here in El Dorado, we have 4. So Walmart, of course, is a different breed. Now, there are areas, and you can go to cities like North Little Rock, as a matter of fact, they have a Walmart, and then they have a neighborhood Walmart, and then they have a community Walmart. They have more than one. But when the question was asked, in my response, I mentioned about our population probably not being able to support 2 Walmarts. I don't know if you remember, way back in the day, we had a Walmart and a Kmart. Kmart was on the other side, on the east side of town. Am I right? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then we know Kmart went out of business. So some businesses, and I think it was a restaurant mentioned and a grocery store mentioned. Many of the grocery stores, and we've had, Williams Neighborhood Market, it started, and for other reasons, they're no longer in business right now, but someone else could take the initiative to start a grocery store. It doesn't mean that it can't be done, but one of the things that I did point out is that you have to have customers to support it, and you also have to have employees to work it. So if we're missing out on that, if we're missing out on people that will actively patronize those areas, we're going to miss out on being able to have them, because again, that foot traffic, you're looking at where people are spending money, where people are going. I'm just going to say, for instance, restaurants can work, but you got to work it. Chickadilly and Southern Classic, I don't think they've ever been at a loss for customers. So it can happen, but somebody has to take the initiative to do it. That's not something that the city has invested in as far as starting businesses. Again, I'm going to go back to the chamber for that. But it's also, I'm going to go back to the fact that sometimes you have to demand some things to get done. And that is an issue that people have to look at, but you can't make someone want to come. In my opinion, and that's purely what it is, if somebody took the initiative to starting a business, just like Mr. Williams did to get that supermarket there, you have to work it. You have to work it. My husband and I own a small business. So that's something that you have to be able to work from start to finish. You got to be there to open up in the morning. You got to work throughout the day, and you got to be there to close and take care of all of that. And it's hard work being a small business owner. But sometimes you have to do a lot of hard work to get things going. At one time, El Dorado had a lot of Black businesses, had a lot of minority businesses. We've gotten away from that. And it's been an issue for all of us. That's just not a Black-white situation. It's been an issue for all of us. So getting back to small businesses, that's one of the things I think we're going to have to look at moving forward. And that's going to mean people deciding that, hey, I need to be the change I want to see. If I know that we need a grocery store over here, maybe me and some of my friends or some of my associates can pool our money together to start that. And there are ways to do that if people are interested. So we can't just keep on saying they won't come, they won't come. Well, who are we? Why won't we come? Why won't we start? And there's a lot of funding for that. So people just need to know. Yeah.
What do you think about you saying on the east side when Kmart was closed and stuff? And I mean, we had like little grocery store Save More. You don't think about them putting no grocery store back on that side of town or anything based upon just on that like East Hillsborough way? You know what I'm saying? I see that there's a lot of business unclosed on that. I think they were talking about taking Old Fashioned or something. But what can you say about any grocery stores in that area?
So, okay, and when you say they, who is they? Are you talking about the city? Are you talking about?
I'm like people that, that stay in that town. They was talking about Betty would go be closed sooner or later. And they was talking about, I think it was talking about Chickadilly was supposed to be changing or closing. But they were saying the main things was a grocery store on that side. Because, Razorback back in the days used to be over there. And like I say, Save More right there when you get to the hill. They wonder why is it so hard or don't no one want to take a risk of bringing a business on that side of town due to like they feel like a lot of break-ins or something. But that'd be our problem in the Black community or anywhere people want them businesses there. But then they got to be the one worried about getting robbed and worried about people stealing all the damn time and all that. People don't even want to talk about the real shit. People say, I don't mean to cuss in front of you. But I have to let people know that it ain't just what people think sometimes. It's what we do to ourselves. You feel me?
That's true.
People don't want to take accountability for the person in the mirror sometimes. You feel me?
I do.
So that'd be a big problem. What can you say about felonies out there? People that have felonies on, how can they get jobs now or can they own a business or something? What can you say about that?
So before I answer that question, let me go back to the question that you were asking before about businesses on Hillsborough, and I'm just going to call it 82 because that is a project that we've been talking about for about a decade now. When you mentioned about Betty's Old Fashioned and about it moving, that is part of the plan once that particular project is started. They're still acquiring businesses and properties right now to move the highway because it's supposed to be a widening of the highway ultimately. And you mentioned about getting grocery stores or whatever in that neighborhood. And I agree to you to the point of if we don't help ourselves, I mean, that's never going to happen. And again, when I say ourselves, I'm not just talking about the African American community. I'm talking about any community. If you're not willing to go the extra mile to help yourself, to protect yourself, because you talked about break-ins and things of that nature, sometimes we are our own worst enemy. Sometimes we don't want to hear it, but you can see just about every other nationality come to any city, and they are self-sustaining. You'll see them working in their restaurants, working in their stores. We need to, and now I'm talking about us, if we want to see that same thing, we have to give that same initiative. So it does require a working together. I don't see the city investing that. I don't even think that's something that the city has ever done. That may be an initiative that someone else could help start, as far as making sure that there are businesses and on every side of town. Now, you mentioned about felons and they're being able to get employment. And there are several companies that do hire felons. A lot of, there are some programs that are in place through the, oh my gosh, it's a part of the Share Foundation. I think it's reentry program, a reentry program where they actually give people who've been incarcerated the opportunity. They help them find jobs, they help them sustain employment, help them with different things, help them with housing. So there are programs in place to help people who, may have made a mistake or a couple of mistakes or a few mistakes in the past, help them be able to be productive in starting employment. The city has hired some people who have a record like that, working with those programs. So there is employment for people who want to be employed. A lot of companies are hiring, and I'm just going to be honest. One of the things that we have to look at is that some people are not employable because they can't pass a drug test, and that's across the board. We know that especially with the medical marijuana and different types of drug use, that's an issue. That's an issue that is across the board that we in our communities have to face. There are some people who, after COVID, maybe health reasons, they're not able to get back in the workforce. And there are some people who are shell-shocked to a degree. COVID kept us in for whatever reason, and some people are actually afraid to get back out in the workforce. They'd rather work from home. But I do believe, and I say this because I see the numbers, there's employment to be had if you're willing to work those jobs. And that's again going to be your own opinion about what you want to do and what you're willing to do.
Yeah. Speaking of that COVID shot, how did it affect the businesses around there, and you know what I'm saying, the hospitals? I don't think, do we got any machines down there? I think they what they call them things, ventilators.
Mm-hmm.
Was any ventilators in place, or
oh yeah,
was it more kids catching it or what grown-ups? Because we still trying to figure out, is more kids carriers or more grown-ups? Because grown-ups back, they now used to be feeling like having on the mask and having the shots. They don't have to worry about it, but a lot of people were re-catching it over.
Oh yeah.
So what can you say about that COVID shot out there? How it's affected? Do you think they need it to start schools, or it's a guinea pig shot or whatever? What can you say about that COVID shot?
So let me preface this with this disclaimer. I'm a mother, I'm a Mimi, I'm a bear, but I am not a physician. So I can't speak medically. Now I will say this. Me and my husband and my daughter, we all took the COVID shot. My husband and I have been boosted twice. We've had 2 boosters. That was our preference. That was our desire to do that. What do I say about other people's preference? My thing is this: you have to be protected. Many of us have always taken the flu shot, and none of us can say right now what's in the flu shot. There were years where they were saying, don't take the flu shot because it's not effective. There were years that people took the flu shot and they got the flu. It was years that, people didn't take the flu shot and they didn't get the flu. We have always had some type of vaccine. So just like with the flu shot or anything else, it's your own personal preference. I will say this: we know that COVID-19 is here. I don't see it going anywhere in the near future. Just kind of like what you said before, we are learning how to deal with it. Some people have decided that they're not going to wear the mask. Some people have decided that they're not going to get the vaccine. but that's your own personal preference. But whatever we decide, we have to deal with the consequences. In my opinion, I feel like you do what you need to do to protect yourself. There are some people who have weakened immune systems, so they're susceptible to catching things very easily. There's some people who have to take care of children. And like you said, children are carriers of a lot of things. You know, they're carriers of colds, and sometimes they can bring it to you and they don't even have it, but they carry it because they're around other kids all the time. Even as far as adults, there are some people who can get it and they'll shake back quickly. There are some people who can get it, as we've seen, it's fatal because they may have other issues that just exasperate it and make it worse. So I think that's something that, in my opinion, because I'm not a physician, I can only tell you my own personal opinion. I felt like in my position, I had to protect myself because I'm in the public. So I wanted to make sure that I was protected. For me, that was to get the vaccine. And again, because I'm still in the public, I got boosted. I do want to say that if you are sending your children to school, make sure that your children are protected, however that looks to you. If that means your kids need to wear a mask, if that means you want to get your kids vaccinated, or if that means you want to homeschool your kids, or if that means you're going to take a chance. So everybody has to go on their own personal preference, but I will say, me and my house, we got vaccinated.
I feel like
Mm-hmm.
anything like that.
Yeah.
So
That's your preference. So people need to know, again, like you mentioned, if you have some underlying conditions, if you know that you struggle with your health anyway, COVID-19 is here. So you need to protect yourself, just like you would during the cold season or the flu season or the pneumonia season. You know, there are vaccines for those things. There are shots that you can take for all of those. So you just have to know to protect yourself. So I agree.
Yeah.
I was a girl.
I used to do the book and the clock. Shout out to Mr. Matthews, Mr. Webson out there. But Mr. Matthews, Mr. Matthews sometimes, boy, I've been starved out. Spud nuts don't make it all day. You know what I'm saying? What can you say about that?
You talking about because I can hear you, but every now and then your voice gets a little like I can't.
It'll keep going out.
A little bit.
I'm glad you're telling me. Can you hear me now?
I can. So you mentioned about the Boys and Girls Club, and I have to say, and I've said this many times, that was my first real job. I was babysitting first, which, you know, it's a real job. People just paid you cash. The Boys and Girls Club was my first job where I got an actual check. So I was the clock girl. You said you did the clock. I did the clock for the basketball games. I did the clock for the football games. I did the score board and everything for the baseball games. So yeah, shout out to the Boys and Girls Club of El Dorado. I don't know what your other question was, but I had to make sure that I told everybody that was my first job. So.
Yeah, I was saying I was working around kids. You know what I'm saying? That's something I used to love, you know what I'm saying, being around at the time when kids were growing up. I see a lot of them growing up and they playing. What can you say about Dan out there? Daniel Gaffer out there. Shout out to Daniel Gaffer. What role you think that plays in the city out there of having a superstar come from your city sometime?
So I have to say this. I have known Daniel's mother for a long time. I did not know Daniel very well. I'm not a huge sports person, but I'd always hear about what he was doing and hear his name. I was really proud of him when he was drafted, when he was playing with the Chicago Bulls, and how he's gone on. one of the things that I'm most impressed about Daniel is that he is so humble. You know, he came back and we did the full weekend with him. He started it by giving back. You know, we had the thing at Maddox Park where he gave, you know, tennis shoes and jerseys and all of that. And then I was just so very honored to be able to dedicate a street to him and do a proclamation for his day and to give him a key to the city. And, you know, he is the first person from El Dorado High School to get his jersey retired. And, you know, he's just a young man. So I'm so very proud of him and the example that he has set, because he, you know, has proven to people that it's not where you come from. If you have a dream, you have a passion, and you have a desire, there's no limit to what you can do. And I just appreciate the fact that with all that he's accomplished, that he's so humble and that he just continues to come back and just be a blessing to this city. So that's amazing. We've had a lot of superstars come through El Dorado, but Daniel is continuing to do some amazing things, and I'm so proud of him. And I know his parents and his family are proud. He is just a good testament to the fact that El Dorado has always had prom. So yeah.
What do you think about blacks in politics?
So,
As Kilza Green.
Now say that.
Andre, I said, what do you think about blacks in politics?
Okay.
Such as
Kilza Green, Andre Brooks, Billy McGee, and rest in peace to Tony Henry out there, ones that have been in politics out there. What can you say about more blacks besides those that I just named? What can you say about the blacks that again, Kilza Green, Andre Brooks, Billy McGee? What
inspiration they bring to the city?
So let me say this, as the people that you have named, they have been trailblazers, forerunners. I tell Kenzel all the time that she blazed this trail for me. She's younger than me, but she blazed this trail for me. Kenzel was the first African-American woman elected to the city council here in El Dorado. At this point, she's been the only. So that was inspiring to me. And I'll share this, and Kenzel knows it. Before I decided to run for mayor in 2018, I talked to Kenzel first, because I was willing to back her and support her if she wanted to do it, because I just felt like she could. So I take my hat off to her for being a young woman deciding to serve, because that's exactly what, as I said before, elected positions are. It's service. Andre Ruggs, I have to shout out Mr. Jimmy Reed. I have to shout out Mr. Wendell Holden. I have to, of course, shout out Tony Henry and Willie McGee, Andre Ruggs, because those have been the men who have sat on that council and have made sure that their voices were heard. I will say, having joined that group, and let me say this, because a lot of people don't know that the Quorum Court is kind of the city council for the county. Miss Carolyn Jones is the only woman that I know of, and it's definitely the only African-American that I know of that has and continues to serve on the Quorum Court. Now, my thing is, my hat goes off to them, because it's hard. It's hard to be one voice speaking for an entire community. It's hard when you don't have the support from the people that you're speaking for to be in that room with you. And so a lot of times, as a minority, African-American, and in my case as a woman as well, it's hard to be in that room and feel like you're the only voice that's speaking, and then you look in the crowd and you don't see the people that you're speaking for. So I take my hat out to all of them, because it takes a lot of strength, it takes a lot of courage, especially to continue to do. Miss Carolyn Jones, I don't know how many years she's been doing it. I want to say she's been doing it as long or longer than Mr. Willie McGee. And Willie, I think, is in his 20th year of serving on the city council. So, of course, my hat goes out to all of them. I want to always pay respect to Mr. Jimmy Reed and Mr. Tony Henry. They both served in Ward 3, Position 2, and they both went on to glory serving in that position. So I always want to pay homage to them, give much respect to their families, because those men, they worked, they had nothing else left. And I want to thank them for all of the sacrifices they made in the city of El Dorado, and specifically for Ward 3.
Two more questions. What can you say about we will go back to public works based upon who has control over the apartment complexes out there from Hillsborough to East Manor to Haganil? Who can more go out there and get the apartments like maintenance out, or because a lot of apartments in each complex burnt to some. What can you say about that on getting some help out in apartment complexes when it comes to that part on the apartment?
I don't like being controversial. I don't like stepping on toes. But apartment complexes are not owned by the city. They are many times privately owned. They have management in place. The most that the city has the authority to do is as far as code violations. Sometimes the fire department can get involved if there's some violations in those areas. But ultimately, and this is where it gets a little sketchy sometimes, if people are living in those conditions, there are a lot of times that they're afraid to make much noise. And it's hard in any position for somebody to come to your aid if you're not willing or not able or feel like you're not able to fight for yourself. In a lot of instances, in almost every complex that you've mentioned, people call my office and complain. That's not a public works issue. So it's never been something that I could go and demand that things are fixed. There is a process at each apartment complex, because I don't think that there's any apartment complex in the city that has the same owner. I think they're all independently and differently owned. But back to the situation of there are people who call and they want something done, but they don't want to make the call to someone in authority with the apartment complexes because they're afraid that they'll be kicked out. They're afraid that they'll be reprimanded by their rent going up or something of that nature. And people just have to keep in mind that nobody can fight for you if you're not able or feel like you're able to fight for yourself. So the city has no control over the apartment complexes. Like I said before, the most that the city can, there are times when the code enforcement can step in, and there are times when the fire department can step in, basically about codes. But ultimately, it's up to the tenants to be able to carry that process all the way up to the top if you have to demand changes being made. Sometimes it may require, many of the tenants getting together to make sure that that information is shared. But it's sad, some of the conditions that people have lived in. But again, I and no one else can fight for somebody if they're not able, for whatever reason, to fight for themselves. And that can be a crucial situation. But unfortunately, that's not the city, or the city can't do much to help. Those complexes are not owned by the city. It goes back to private property. There are certain things that the city can't do. Like, for instance, my yard. The city doesn't have the authority to come and mow my grass. As a matter of fact, it's unlawful for the city to come and mow my grass on private property. It's the same situation with apartment complexes. They're looked at as private property.
So what can you say about the parks staying up to par with the basketball goals and,
Shut up a little bit.
magic wand?
You cutting out.
Open somebody.
You cutting out. I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. I was saying, what you think about the parks staying up to par with the basketball goals, and what can you say about the skating ring out there? When can we get that open back again? Because we've been trying to get that open for years, and they don't want to open that, and they don't want to.
Who's been trying to get it open?
All goes up. What can you say about us getting it open?
So we
us over there at Haganil.
Because this is one of the things. That now I'm gonna start with the skating rink, which is the last thing you said, and then I'm gonna go back to the parks. The skating rink is not city property. The skating rink building is independently, privately owned. So the city can't demand that the people that own the skating rink open it up and renovate it. The city, it goes back to private property. It doesn't belong to the city. So that's not an effort that people. Now there have been some people who contacted owners, and I can't speak to that because I don't know what that discussion was, but I do know that it has not been reopened. So that's not a city issue, and that's not anything that the citizens can demand. It's just like people trying to demand that you paint your house a certain color. We can't demand that because it's privately owned. And there is an owner to the skating rink, as well as there was an owner to the bowling alley. Different businesses like that are not city owned. So the city has no control in making those things happen. As a matter of fact, I don't think like the arcade and all of that back in the day, it wasn't the city doing that. It's different businesses or different business owners making sure that those things happen. So as far as getting another skating rink, that would have to be something that someone would have to go in business to do. I want to back up to the parks because you mentioned about keeping them up to par with the basketball goals and things of that nature. There is a Parks and Playground Committee, and they have been working for several years before I became mayor, and probably before the last mayor was mayor, about doing renovations and things of that nature. They have recommissioned, or what they did was it was called decommissioned basketball goal over there by Lions Park in Fortville, because they created a new basketball goal over there, and they've included bathrooms. There is an initiative to do renovations all over the city in the different parks for different things. I appreciate the fact that you mentioned it because I went to that meeting yesterday. The Parks and Playground meeting was yesterday at noon. Ask me how many people were in attendance that were not there to present, or me, or on the board. Ask me so I can.
Zero.
There was one person there. There was one person in the audience other than the people from the golf course, the public works director, and the people that sit on that board, and me. There was one person there. So I'm going to say it again. The squeaky wheel gets the oil, but you got to squeak in the right places. There was a lot of controversy about Maddox Park and the swimming pool being closed. People, some people just said they just realized that it was torn down. It had to be torn down for one to be renovated. That was one of the things that was discussed in the Parks and Playground meeting yesterday. But one of the things I'm gonna go back to is that it's not enough for us to complain at home. It's not enough for people to complain on Facebook. It's not enough for people to complain at the barbershop. Come complain in the right places. Come to the meetings. Contact your council members. Contact people on those boards. If you don't know who they are, call City Hall, call our city clerk, call me. We can give you that information. But the pool was torn down months ago, and people are just now noticing it. And that goes to the fact that the people who claim that they want it the most, we haven't taken care of it. That pool was in a horrible state. People were breaking in the bathrooms. The bathrooms were locked because people were breaking in. If you've been in there in the last few years, you saw that the changing area was horrific. Anybody who wanted to take their child in there, it was a bad situation. We should demand better. And we can't get better if we don't demand better. So things like that, when people complain about what hasn't happened, where are you complaining? Because there's an entire board that is dedicated to parks and playgrounds. Yes, that falls under Public Works, and the Public Works Department maintains the parks, but that's something that we can do as well. If we know that we've had an event in the park and we had trash everywhere, you can pick up the trash from your own event. So we can't complain about things not being done when we're not taking the initiative to do it. And I know a lot of times it's not the popular answer, but it's the truth. You know, we can't expect, if I throw trash in my front yard, I can't expect for somebody else to come pick it up. That's my responsibility. So our neighborhoods are our responsibility, and the parks are in our neighborhood. Maddox Park is one of the biggest and the nicest parks. A lot of people don't know that park was donated by a white lady because she wanted to see things in our neighborhood. So that's who it's named after. It's Maddox. That's why it's Maddox Park. So it's in our neighborhood. We should take care of it. And there's been a lot of vandalism in that park. A lot of things, happen in the park that probably shouldn't. But again, it's in our neighborhood. So the parks and keeping them up to par is a responsibility not only for Public Works, but it's a responsibility of the neighbors and the citizens that live in the city as well. So everybody plays a part.
I'm glad you brought that up too about getting more help these days, because a lot of people, they complain on Facebook, but they don't go in person to get help. You feel me?
I do.
Sometimes you gotta be in public in at the events other than worry about somebody.
That's right.
About that, getting help in public and getting help just online type stuff, because they don't always take a part on what we need sometime.
Now you cut
Business offline.
you cut out a little bit, but I think I think I can answer kind of what you're saying. I think a lot of times now social media has crippled us a lot because it's easy to get on the keyboard and to rant and to say what you think and how you feel. But at the end of the day, if that's all you're doing, you're just part of the problem. You're not part of the solution. I've had a lot of people say what they feel on Facebook about what I do or what I don't do. And I'm gonna tell you, I don't Facebook fight. I'm not going to challenge you on Facebook. If you want to talk to me, I have an office. I have 2 phones. You can call me, you can come see me, or I'll meet you where you are. I don't have the time for that. A lot of people feel like it's enough to put a complaint out there and get a lot of comments and a lot of likes and a lot of shares. But if you're not actually doing the work to change things, Facebook that's your stage. And I'm not a player in that. I've told people from the time that I was elected, if you want to see things happen, you can come talk to me. If I can assist you in that, anybody who's ever come to me with an idea that I could help them with, if they tell you the truth, they'll tell you that I helped them or I put them in a place or with the person that can help them, because I believe in trying to assist people. But I think sometimes we got too comfortable complaining and we don't want to get up and do the work. I don't have the luxury of not doing the work. I have to do the work of what I was elected to do. And while it may not appease everybody, I know what I have to do so I can look at myself in the mirror and I sleep good at night. So I fought for people who wouldn't come in the room. I fought for people who were in the room who wouldn't open their mouth. But that's ultimately something that I was doing before I was the mayor. So I think a lot of times we do a lot on social media, but we need to show up and have our voices heard. Sometimes you're going to have to get your hands dirty. Sometimes you're going to have to do some real work. But that's the only way we'll make things change. So, I mean, it's easy to be on the sidelines to tell somebody else what play to make. Come on, get in the game and you make the play.
Before we get up out of here, we want you to discuss again what the mayor job is out there, because like you say, you can't fix everything over the world because you're the mayor. Can't fix everything.
Make sure that people know what a mayor position is out there, so they don't bump their head and say, do I need to go to city council or do I need to go to the mayor? Let them know more about that part of what your job, your position is.
I appreciate you, and I time. And when I finish this, we need to go. It's getting late. Y'all know I got to get up early in the morning.
Yeah.
But I do.
Yeah, it's almost 9.
I do want people to understand, as far as me being the mayor, much of what I do is be a representative for this city. I think it's important to be very vocal, very visible. I feel like it's important for me to share the processes and the procedures of the city and city government and how things are supposed to work. I want people to understand that I don't make all of the decisions. I'm not the end all to decisions being made. I do not vote. I conduct the city council meetings. I do not get an opportunity to vote unless there is a tie. At this point, even with me being mayor here in El Dorado, I am administrator, or I'm over my particular staff, and I will say again that includes my human resources director, the city collector, the accounts payable clerk. We do have a custodian and a receptionist. Those are the people that are in my administration. The police chief, the fire chief answer to me as far as in the chain of command. They fall under the mayor. I tell people all the time, I don't tell the police to arrest, and I don't tell the fire department what fires to put out. They have a chief and a staff that's in charge of that. But the chiefs of both departments keep me in the loop, keep me informed about things that are going on. Previously, when I was elected, and in most cases, the public works director falls under the mayor, but because the council made that change in December of 2020, they are now over the public works director, which means that they're over the public works department. So if there's an issue with trash, with your street, potholes, limbs, leaves, your water, sewer, thing of that nature, you call the public works department. And if you, instead of coming to me, you go to any of the council members. I always like to share Miss Judy Ward's number because she chairs the board that is over the public department, the El Dorado Water Utilities, and her name is Judy Ward. She is the Ward 2 council representative, but she also chairs that board, and her number is 870-814-4666. So you can always call her as well. But I do want people to know that I don't make those decisions as far as what road gets paved, as far as what businesses come to town. We also have a chamber, and they are in charge of the economic development of the city of El Dorado. So if you have questions about businesses, even if you want to, if you're interested in starting your own business, you can contact us at City Hall because we prepare business licenses and we can give you information about getting your EIN number, tax ID number, and those things. But you can also contact the chamber. But ultimately, I have an open door policy. My office number is 870-862-7911. My cell phone number is 870-315-0004. If there's something I can help you with, I'm willing to do that. My office is located at 204 Northwest Avenue, the city of El Dorado. That is City Hall, not the courthouse, City Hall. And with an open door policy means if I am there and I'm not otherwise occupied with another visitor or a meeting, you come in and you see me because I have an open door policy and I'm willing to assist in any way that I can. I want to sign out by saying that I am running for re-election. I want people to understand that when I decided to run 4 years ago, my platform was education, industry, entrepreneurship, communities, quality of life, and public safety. I continue on that 5-point platform because there's still work to be done. I am a candidate that you can trust because I am transparent, reliable, unifying, serving, and trustworthy. So I started a movement back in 2018. The movement continues.
That's what's up. Hey,
You qualified for everything you did, baby. That's what we is, man. This Veronica Trill, y'all. Shit. AKA Sunshine, I'm gonna say.
I was just gonna tell them you cleared all that up for me, and I'm glad you did.
Thank
You know what I'm saying?
I'm trying to get in touch with you. And I salute you, and it's an honor for you coming on. Like I said, man, I'm glad you waited on so it's not a devil work out here. But we ain't gonna put that
Devil. And like I tell people, vote, vote, vote. Your vote, it don't matter. You just be complaining.
October 24th, election day is November the 8th. So get out and vote. And I'm telling you, whoever you vote for, get out and vote. Your vote is your voice, but don't be silent after you push that button. Keep on speaking up for the things that you need and the things that you deserve.
It's not a white and black thing. It's not a rich and poor thing. It's about both coming together.
That's it.
I just wanted to say it, baby.
All right.
Nice talking to you.
You
Nice
too.
talking to Trill Talk, Part 96, tuned in with Veronica Smith-Creer out there, aka Sunshine, man. Y'all go and see her out there. Y'all help the community out there, man. South Arkansas, L-Dog style. Much love. I see you out there. Thanks.
Thank you.